And the last item here, common law partners. This is becoming a very big issue as fewer people are getting married. More people are waiting longer who do get married. 50% of the marriages end up in divorce anyway, so you kind of have to wonder if the entire institution was never meant to be in the first place. I mean, mathematically, I'm sorry, but when 50% of something doesn't work, it was never meant to be. That sounds like a casino to me. So I think you're going to see an awful lot of common law type partnerships in the future. So of course that leads to a whole bunch of different issues. What rights do they have? Do you have a premarital contract? Are there property rights? Do they have rights for support? What if there's children involved? And you know, and on and on and on. You can just understand the complexities. So I hope that this will give you just kind of an introductory sense that when you come across terms, you'll have a better idea of what the term is referring to, and I think it'll prove to be pretty helpful in the long run. Now, an example of where it can get even more complicated is husband gets married, the wife is quite a bit younger, husband's quite wealthy, and the wife is not. And they go on vacation. They have a common disaster clause. They assume the older person died first. The money goes to the wife, and then all that money transfers to the wife's side of the family. What about the husband's side of the family? Do you get the point? These are complicated issues that need to be dealt with. RSP, pretty simple. That's your pension plan, and that could include your personal RSP. You may have an RSP as part of your pension at work, and of course you got your pension. And you have to understand where you are in your life cycle. You may be retired, so you may have a RIF, Registered Retirement Income Fund, or LIF, which is a life income fund in some provinces in Canada, or LRIF, Life Retirement Income Fund in some other provinces in Canada, but you need to be clear about that. Beneficiaries, pretty simple. Make sure you spell my name right. I've never yet, out of all the students I've had in the courses, no one's ever left me anything yet, so I doubt very much it's going to happen now. They're probably waiting for me to die and I leave money to them. Key thing here is to be quite specific about beneficiaries, and that can help you reduce probate costs also. Here's an interesting one, specific exclusion. This came up in the Michael Jackson case, I believe, where he specifically included his dad from receiving estate benefits. And I know that the father is asking that he be entitled to some benefits. And of course that's going to drag on. They may just give him something to have him go away. I don't know, but the idea here is if you have one brother, for example, that you do not want to leave anything to, or one child, if the child is an adult, it's in your best interest not to just leave them out, which would be in legal terms an omission, but to specifically exclude them and maybe even say why. A lot of people now are doing video wills, so you can't say that someone else made up the document when you got Fred on camera going, all right, you hokey dokey people, you get this and you don't get that, and makes for some funny commercials on TV. And all of a sudden people are getting things that nobody ever heard of before. And okay, so that's what that's referring to. Guardians, we covered that already. Here's an interesting one here, prudent investor in a legal list. We're in a very low interest rate environment right now, where this is 2010. This year and in the last few years, interest rates have been in the 2-3% range. So if you were to have, say, $200,000 and you die, and the guardian has been told, or the trustee or the executor, to invest that money in term deposit, and they're going to get 3%. Well, that's only going to give the beneficiary, let's say they get 3%, 200,000, so they get 6,000 per year. That's not very much. So they think, well, you know what? We think that we should buy some common stock. Well, the problem is, what if it was in the year 1999 or 2000 and they bought Nortel and they went bankrupt? Or they bought Celestica at $128, and what happened to Celestica? They're down in the $5 range. Or you can go on and on, you know, Descartes Systems, $144, down in the $4 range. So here's the catch. In order for the government to play kind of a practical role, they made a legal list of what is acceptable. If you want your money to be placed in a little bit higher risk, because let's assume that the person had some money management skills and they understood the stock market fairly well and people were aware of that, then you've got a legal list of what you can do. If you want your executor to have the right, or the guardian for the benefit of the child, to have the right to go beyond that, you really need to specify that. So the idea is, what would a prudent investor do? And if they do go and make crazy investments, who's going to be liable for that? So you can understand there's a little bit of complexity here, so be clear about what your goals are. This term here, in specie or in kind, refers to transferring an asset, say, from a parent to a child as is, where if you were to sell the item, let's say it was a grand piano, I leave this piano to you, or I leave this stock portfolio, in specie or in kind means you leave it as is, you do not convert it to cash. So it's kind of, in its actual form would probably be the best Latin interpretation for that. And some assets are probably more valuable if they are left in kind or in specie, because of the fact that they have sentimental value, historical value, and you may not be able to get what you want for the item depending on where you are in the economic cycle. Insurance, pretty simple. Main thing here is list all insurance. A lot of people have, for example, air miles, even though it's not insurance, but I mean it may show up because of your credit card purchases. People are getting air miles when they're making purchases. Accidental death benefits. How many people go to the airport, buy the flight insurance, and then actually tell their family? Because most people don't like to talk about that kind of thing, especially when you're at the airport getting on the plane and say, oh, by the way, if the plane goes down, you're going to be very rich. You know, you may just find your cousin out with a rifle trying to shoot the plane down. A joke, of course, but that was the premise of the movie Get Shorty with John Travolta. So the premise is detail all your insurance, accidental benefits. A lot of people on their credit cards have a death benefit there that will pay off outstanding balances. But if nobody knows about it, well, group insurance. A lot of people belong to clubs. There might be insurance involved. So try to have everything you can possibly find and put it down in writing. Lawyers have a term that the palest ink is better than the best memory. Well, if you're gone, what good is your memory? So put it down on paper so other people will know. In terms of assets, of course, list every single asset that you possibly can think of. That a lot of people have things nobody knows about. A lot of people have a safety deposit box, or they may have in their garage a little safe stuck in a wall somewhere. Well, you know, if nobody knows about it, it doesn't really serve a lot of good. But you can see the other side is that a lot of people don't like to tell people because they're worried that it may disappear while they're alive. A lot of people buy life insurance when they're older to cover funeral expense and just, you know, a kind of exemplary cost, but they're not really keen to be telling their partner about this for fear that they'll never be able to eat food again in the house. It's a joke, but I mean, you get my point. You could really make a really good Saturday Night Live skit about this, you know. The couple who one party knows that the other party, whoever passes away first, is going to collect all this money, and then both of them have kind of locked themselves into a room and they don't want to go anywhere. It's a crazy world after all. Annuities and RIFs, these are just pension options. If you're receiving these, I mean, your bank statements would probably be able to detail that. Now this term here, rights or things, relates to your executor having the ability to file 2 returns. They may file 1 return, but then there could have been things that were owed to you but they had not yet been paid, like bonuses, possibly interest payments, dividends as an example, stock options. I mean, you can think of a lot of things where at that point in time may have been owed but not yet payable. So there could be tax benefits to this also if you think of it, because you're actually getting to file 2 returns, so you're dividing up the amount because it may not actually all take place in the same tax year.